What's up, Nakamas? For today, we're just gonna be chilling out and playing some games with Nami. So this is the current configuration that I have with OP06 cards. I think in my previous video, I showed my current list that has the EB01 cards, but for the simulator, we still don't have the EB01 cards yet. So for this video, I would still be using my OP06 list, and I wanted to showcase how I play Nami, and hopefully we can battle a lot of like meta decks. That way I can also show you how I pilot the deck against these decks. Let's see this deck in action. Okay, for our first game, so this is basically a meta deck, Katakuri. Just start here by reducing the cards in our graveyard via Akaya. So we just passed here. We don't want to pilaf with and tap out. So this one, let's just White Snake, draw a card. And this is a pretty big attack, so you can just let this resolve because this is an 8k. So let's use this trigger. Draw a card, discard a card. So let's be left here and try to remove some Sanji. But our opponent saved the Sanji here, so we can just pass. So I'm okay with our opponent using the Dons to pump that Sanji. At least the leader attack would be lesser. But this is a 10k attack, so let's just resolve this. So this is a Death Wink, so we can bounce a character with 7 or less. So let's bounce our Kaya here, and we can try to attack Sanji first. Let them waste their counters, but they didn't defend it. So Kaya again, further reducing the number of cards in our library. So we have 2 Zephs here, so I discarded 1. So opponent is preparing for another big attack here from Katakuri. So this is a 14k. So we just probably need our Deathwing here and not wait for it for us to draw some cards with the Deathwing, because we do have another Deathwing in play. So let's trash here, bounce our Kaya, and we got Gavel from Mr. 1. So very cool here. We are at 10 Dawn with 24 cards in our library. So we can just pilaf first and then attack for 9k. Hope to trigger here, but our opponent has a lot of cards in their hand. But since they let us trigger it, we are very okay with that and passing the turn with 4 open Dawns. So 12k here. So we wanted to protect this. So we are at 12. And basically we want to protect this. So let's just rubber band, mill additional 1 card here. Let our opponent waste their attack. We are currently at 2 life. Okay, so our opponent didn't attack, but just opted to cast another 10 drop Big Mom. So I highly doubt that they will take this, but let's just attack again. So we attack for 10k. I'm pretty surprised that our opponent took that. So now we have 6 cards for Kaya, and then we do have 2 Gavels in our um, hand. We just wait for our opponent to attack here and get the win. For the next game, another very good match up for us. I think Gecko Moria is a pretty good deck right now. So starting off here with Akaya, further reducing our hand. I mean our library. So overall, I really like the matchup for Gecko Moria. So we can just not do anything here. We don't want our opponent to gain cards from their life. Borsalino is okay. We can rubber band here, mill 1. We drew a Zeph, so let's just pass. So we do have Gavel to fend off against big attacks. The opponent is dropping blockers, but it's okay. That's one thing that's good for with using Nami, is that a lot of cards are actually dead for our opponent. So let's Gavel here. We do have Mr. 1. We can get our Gavel back. And now our Love Beam is online. So let's Love Beam. Drew a Kaya here. So far so good for us. We can just try to attack Borsalino with 8k. Let them waste their counters. So we do have a pretty good hand here at this point. I was okay with our opponent defending that. Do have Mr. 1, we can get a Gavel. So Sabo, wow. Another blocker drop here for our opponent, which will become attackers. So Sabo is really good. A very big body for a blocker, and against mirror match or against sometimes Sakazuki, Sabo is really good, at least for the Moria player. 7k here, let's just take and don't want to trigger the Gavel. 5k. So this is where White Snake is really nice. So let's White Snake, prevents the damage and draws you a card. So we drew another Gavel here. So we can bounce our Kaya, mill 2. Then let's just attack this just for the sake of it. I'm not sure what happened here because they can just take this. Okay, so we can end the turn right there. I usually do that even in Magic the Gathering. Like if I have like a Hedron Crab, a 0-3, we can just attack it and have some fun. So let's up this 9k, mill 2, then Kaya. So 8k, it's a pretty good value here for Gavel. But doing Gavel here I prefer to leave the Kaya because it will dig a little deeper for our library than to get another Gavel. So that's a pretty good trigger there. Kaya here for saving our Nami. We drew another Kaya, so let's just opt to attack with very big value here. Our opponents left all of his blockers. So, okay, that's pretty cool. We triggered the Mill 7 for Zeph. So, opponent opted to attack with everything, and we took advantage of that window to Mill 7 off of Zeph's ability. I think Zeph will die here for an 11k attack that we are not able to defend. So let's just trigger. Oh, very nice here. Another rubber band. So I was thinking here if I want to trigger or not. But with the remaining attack for our opponent, I just opted to keep it here. Just in case our opponent used the 2 dawns for Bart. But that wasn't the case. So I'm still okay with that. We drew a Death Wink, which is very good. So we can attack for 8k here. Let our opponent discard some cards. But Bart for the rescue there. We have 7 open dawn. At this point, we can up White Snake and then White Snake again. And so this, we are in a pretty awkward situation here. So I just opted to use Death Wink. Because Love Beam, even using Love Beam will let us take some damage. So at this point, I'm happy that our opponent attacked with 8k. We used Akaya. And we can just take this. We drew a Death Wink, which is very okay. So I was kind of hoping that we had Akaya in the field here because we have only 8. If we had Akaya, we could have just used the trigger of the Death Wink to bounce our own Kaya. So we have a pretty good hand. We have Love Beam, which will draw us a card, and Desert Spada. So Death Wink can become online depending on what we draw with the Love Beam. So let's just attack here and pass the turn. So very big attack here for our opponent. Let's Desert Spada first. Let's put them out on bottom. So let's draw with Love Beam. That's for 11k. So it was pretty awkward here because I didn't want to use the Death Wink. So I took some damage and Impel Down All Stars. Very nice. We drew 2 cards. And now we have 2 Death Winks to save the day for us. So we are in a pretty good situation. So since our attack is only 5k, Desert Spada here. Then we can Death Wink if our opponent attacks. So let's Death Wink here. Although we don't draw any cards, we are saving. So draw 2 cards here, only 1 card remaining. Get a Gavel and pass and win on the next attack. So this was a pretty good match and I'm really happy with this matchup in general. Our opponent managing the Dawns here, but it won't matter. We're gonna win on the first attack with Gavel milling 2 cards, which we only have 1 card in our library at this point. So against like black decks or yellow decks, in general, Nami has a pretty good matchup. So the meta right now are full of black and with Moria and Sakazuki. So, and also the new Luffy from ST13. I've seen a lot of those here in Japan. So I'm really thinking about. So we're gonna win here and move to the next game. So I think this is also a pretty good um, match to feature here, because Yamato is very aggressive, and with the access of Nami giving banish to Yamato, it poses a little challenge for Nami, because we won't be able to draw our cards. Okay, so we can just try to bounce here, or the overheat was also very good here. So what we did here is we just opted to delay our opponent, so we can actually do a lot of things here. I'm saving the love beam, so I just opted for overheat. Let's draw 2 cards off of Pilaf and just pass the turn. There's another Pilaf in hand, but I didn't want to take a lot of damage. So against Yamato, even without the draw for Deathwing, it's okay to use it if our opponent pumps a lot of Dawns. So there's nothing to bounce. We don't have any Kayas, so I just opted to use Zeph here. Oh, our opponent dropping a lot of Izos. So let's Pilaf here again. We drew a Gavel, which is very okay. We do have an Impel Down All-Stars in our hand, which is useless. So 6k for the first attack. So let's just Desert Spada here. I like these 3 cards, so I think I want Kaya first, and then we can draw the Zeph and bounce the Kaya again. So really like that play. Now we can discard the Impel Down All-Stars, and at this point the Brick Fisk was the worst card in our hand at that point. Let's just bounce Kaya to mill additional cards. We do have 26 cards remaining in our library at this point, and I'm very happy since we still have 5 life at this point. And White Snake saving the day here. 8k for the kid. So let's just take that. We did draw an overheat, which is very okay in this particular situation. So we didn't do any triggers here, but so very cool. 6k for our opponent. There's a lot of things that we can cast here. Rubber Band is one thing, and then there's overheat, so we can just bounce the other Izo, the untapped Izo, to prevent one more attack. So 1 card for overheat. Let's just take this, draw 2 cards. So the overheat there basically stopped 2 attacks, and that's very cool. So let's try to, with 24 cards in our library. So opponent didn't put any Dons in Kid, so we can just try to attack Izo here. Although our opponent has a blocker, but our opponent opted to save via counters here, which is also okay. So we can't attack with Zeph. We can't deal damage with Zeph at any point. But for now, I just wanted to remove this kid, or hope that our opponent will use that blocker, but that was not the case. So 5k attack here. Very good target for White Snake again. I really love this, the addition of White Snake. So when it was first spoiled, I didn't really like it that much, because there was a lot of reds before OP06 got launched, and now with the reduction of red, Zoros and Whitebeard. Whitesnake is really really good in the current meta. So at this point we do have another Gavel in our hand, so I just opted to use Rubber Band here because of how our opponent is playing, and since our opponent needs to pump 2 Dons to the Izos, so I hope that Rubber Band would be a better target. So 11k here, we need a 6k block, so we're just using the Deathwing and additional blocks here. So this one is quite tricky. It's a 5k, we can only drop 1 card in our hand. So yep, so just as we hope, our opponent will only attack with 5ks. For now, save that with a Kaya, then we can Gavel 10k. This is too big, so we can just take. We drew another Gavel, so we can just bounce the blocker here. Very timely Gavel, and since our opponent doesn't have any blockers, let's hope for a Zeph trigger here. Opponent didn't put any Dons in Kid, so we can attack freely. Yep, that's what we like the most. Try to attack here. Okay, opponent saves the Izo. So we do have 6 cards in the deck. So what we can do here is that with a Kaya and then another one for Love Beam, so we have 4 cards here already. So let's just opt for Kaya here, discard Zeph, and I think we don't even need the Deathwing anymore. But the tricky part here is that we have only 5 Dons. If we had 6, we can just Pilaf and Love Beam, and we can just win right off the bat. So I was forced to discard Pilaf here and Zeph. So we have 4 cards. So what we want to do here is that we save Love Beam. Now we have 3 cards in the deck. Crash 1 card. Now we have 2 cards. So hoping to survive in this game, in this round. So let's trigger, and we won via Nimble Down All-Stars trigger. Very cool. That's it for today's video. If you're still watching up to this point, then you're not just a nakama, you're a super nakama. And I'm very thankful for that. If you're not yet subscribed, click subscribe so that you would be notified for my future Nami videos. Have a great day everyone, and see you in the next video.